Okay, here goes. Here goes. So I was really like, should we have a meeting on a holiday week? This is great. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. This is officially the first meeting of the new Rotary year. And because you had to listen to me so much during the Mardi Gras and all, I'm going to keep my introductory remarks very brief. What motivates us? What illuminates us? I'm going to use 6 words, just 6 words. Community, commerce, camaraderie, service above self. That, to me, is what I hope this year can mean, not just to me, but to all of you. A tip of the cap to Mark Gardberg, who is not here. Mark joined us for a strategic planning session about 2 months ago, and we talked and talked for 3 hours. He said very little, and at the end, being the lawyer he is, he said, community, commerce, camaraderie. And that is our new brand for the year. I've been a Rotarian for 20 years. It always comes back to service above self. I probably have had drinks, coffee, beer, wine with almost all of you over the last few months, and a phrase kept popping up over and over. How can we get our hands dirty? So I'm hoping this year that we can listen carefully, we can support all of you, and we can serve not only the club's interests in the community, but hearing about all of your particular interests in the community. And I hope we can be not only a source of service projects, but a facilitator and a connector to your worlds, because each and every one of you is engaged in your community through your schools, your houses of worship, other charities and nonprofits. And I hope if we have time, I'll explain a little more about what this is. Oh, you just missed it. I was just talking about you. In fact, you're my first tip of the cap. Because you helped us with our brand, you get the first cap. Thank you very much. Mark also had a very successful seminar 2 weeks ago, led by Dave, and I hope it led to some new clients, in fact. But it was a very specific kind of seminar, and yet he had a very good turnout, and I'm sure you brought a lot to it. Dave, what's the next seminar, and who's speaking, if I could ask, in between your baking?
The seminar is August 20th, same Tuesday afternoon, 4 o'clock, same location, West Sahara Library. Kendall Kenny used to be on one of the TV stations. Will, as a public relations firm, and he's going to be talking about messaging for your business, both in terms of getting your message out for your business and a little bit of how to handle crisis management when the press has a microphone in your face if something goes wrong. So that'll be what it'll be. It's August 20th. Should be a good one.
Thank you. In the back of the room is a gentleman I met for the first time Saturday when I had the opportunity, and it turned out to be a privilege. I wasn't sure it would be. It turned out to be a privilege, meeting with Glenn Lee and Eric Locklear. Eric is our newest member of the club, or will be as soon as we approve you. Eric's part of a triad, a corporate member brought to us by Linda, and Eric is the Director of Sales and Marketing for the TPC Summerlin. And we must thank Eric for the spirit of true partnership between two organizations that can thrive and grow together. You may notice that the breakfast is a little different this morning. We did 2 things. We hopefully sped things up by having service from both sides, but it is, I think, a beautifully diverse and lovely breakfast, and I can't thank you enough. We're also keeping the gate open, not only so it's easier for you, but so that we can exude an image of being accessible and open to our community. So again, thank you, and we look forward to all 3 of you being a part of our club. Last thing before we get into a very packed program. what are the key goals of the new year? Well, the good news is that they're probably the same goals that we've always had. But it was a really illuminating opportunity for all of us to get together and actually see them written down. And I'm just going to share them. It doesn't mean this is the whole list, but we've already had tremendous committee meetings over the last week, week and a half. It's amazing how each of these themes have percolated up organically, led by our committee chairs. Better serve our members as we grow very rapidly. We're growing very rapidly. Not only recruit, but retain our members. Focus on where we're located. We are Summerlin. Of all the Las Vegas Valley clubs, we're really the only one that can have a small town image to it. It's our town, and our focus is Summerlin. Focus on our youth. Obviously something we've done very well and will continue to do. Provide members with service opportunities. Jill is the chair of the Community Services Committee. Her role is, one, to organize monthly service projects. But again, this is a symbol of how we're going to learn about all the volunteer work you do in your own community. And we're going to hopefully have you tell us about it, and we're going to celebrate it. Hopefully you may lead us to your own opportunities. And for every hour of volunteer work you do, multiply it by $25. $25. Recognize your individual volunteerism. Provide business networking and development opportunities. Make international more relevant and local. I had coffee with Robert yesterday. He gave me the name of one organization, and I just really, my hat almost flew off. Not going to mention it because we haven't vetted it yet, but if we can pull it off, we not only have an amazing international opportunity, but we're all going to be able to get involved locally in providing a global impact. And finally, fundraise to support our projects. Linda is going to approach this year a little differently than maybe I did. She's already put together a dynamic fundraising committee, and we're beginning immediately not only to look about what we can do to sustain our momentum, but also to be as innovative and creative as possible. I hope those goals relate to you and your own experience in Rotary, and please, our ears are bigger than our mouths. We want to hear from you. Speaking of volunteerism, I'd like very much for you to be able to recognize the people that currently have really stepped up as your leaders. They're volunteering their time and talents as your board and committee chairs. So can I ask Linda to come up? Here's your hat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our new administrator, Lee. One of Lee's roles is to be our host. So everybody feels like this is your living room and not just a meeting hall.
No falling asleep.
Thank you. A tip of the cap to you. One of my heroes, and who's taught me so much in about 6 months, can I see Greg as our Youth Services Chair? Also, obviously, the president of the foundation. A tip of the cap. Thank you. We have 2 Daves. So we'll start with Dave P. Dave is probably the reason I'm the president now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want, while you're here, just to quickly tell people about what's going to happen in 2 days?
Sure. We're putting the final touches on our sponsorship in the 4th of July parade. We'll be meeting, many of you have already been contacted who volunteered, but we'll be wrangling our wonderful balloons in our section of the parade. And we're meeting at 6:45 a.m., bright and early, at the Dollar Tree store on Lake Mead. We'll be basically coordinating carpools from there over to the staging area and then we'll have a great morning. So if you volunteered, we'll be there, and I have your parade shirts, so you'll be able to change into those t-shirts so we're all matching. Remember to wear khaki shorts and dress comfortably on those feet because you're going to be walking for a mile or two during the parade. Thanks, everybody.
Tip of the cap. You got one. Well, fortunately, then I have one for Dave C., our vocational chair, who has he's basically building an entrepreneurial model for us. It's amazing what we've been able to accomplish. You know about the development series, the professional development series. He has also been working with one of our amazing executive members, who I'd like to acknowledge. That's Christy. Where is Christy? Please stand up. Christy can't be here most breakfasts. Why, Christy?
I have 5 boys, and we get off to school during the school year, about 7:30 we're off, so.
But she exemplifies what an executive member can be because she's totally engaged. And she's been working assiduously to help us build our first digital business directory. Do you want to chastise anybody here for not getting it to them?
No, but I do want to say, if you've gotten an email from me recently and you want to be a part of it, but maybe don't have time to fill out the form probably takes 10 minutes max to fill out and get back to me, and I need a headshot. And if it's easier for you, come see me and I'll give you my phone number, and we can do a 5-minute phone call even, and just do a quick interview and get it done. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really cool tool for everybody to market themselves vocationally.
Will you come up, because you're working so hard and so quietly and so humbly? I would like you to market us as the Summerlin Rotary Community Commerce and Camaraderie.
Thank you.
By the way, anybody who wants to buy a hat, it's $30 with $10 going to a good cause.
I want to make 2 vocational service announcements. One is, this directory is going to be listed by business type, so if you're looking for whatever, that's where you go to. That's how it's going to be. There's about 20 of you that have not responded. Please get that to Christy. The next thing is that we have our business card holder over here. Please bring business cards. If you don't have business cards in the business card holder, for the business card exchange, because it's full, we have a new empty one. If your card isn't in there, next meeting, bring some business cards. If you need to pick up someone's business card, we'll have it for our members. Thanks, that's all I have.
Can I ask Kate to come up, our social chair? What has Kate done in the last week or 2? She actually has social calendar for the entire year done. Now she just has to make sure they all come together. Can I see Dean, please? Dean, our program chair. Thank you so much.
You're just making fun of me.
Go ahead. Here, make your announcement. Make your announcement.
So, am I okay there? Can I do without this? Yeah. Everybody hear me? Have fun of those. I think everybody knows I'm involved with a lot of event planning, especially golf tournaments and stuff. I like to go. August 24th, I am involved in the 16th annual Fat Boy Open. This is an event we do for autistic children. Budweiser is the primary sponsor of it, which means there's a lot of beer at this event. And we literally bring our teams in and throw them on a big meat scale. And if your team doesn't weigh 900 pounds, you have to pay a penalty for not being fat enough to play in the golf tournament. It's a fun event. I need some volunteers, actually, for my hole-in-ones. I have 4 separate events where I'm giving away cars and a camper and some other oddity. No one ever gets the hole-in-one, but in the odd chance that someone ever does, I need to have a proctor on the green watching the ball go in the hole. So I know we do a lot of volunteer stuff. I'm not asking anyone to go to India or go to Mexico. All you got to do is meet me out at Paiute on a Saturday morning, probably a pretty hot one. Bloody Mary bar opens at 6:30. We start golf at 8, and we never start on time because no one's sober by the time we start. We always outsell this thing. I usually end up with about 300 golfers on the 2 courses. So it's a 6-hour round if we're lucky. And no one seems to care. We just keep drinking and keep playing and then Uber our way home. But I need up to 8 people. I'll take few as 1, as many as 8, and again, all we have to do is sit out on the green, hopefully with a little shade, a little sunscreen. I'll buy you breakfast, I'll buy you lunch, you can buy some raffle tickets, and if you make it out there, you'll have a lot of fun, and all you have to do is stand and watch ball, not go in a hall.
What day is it?
It's Saturday, August 24th.
Okay, and we're allowed to laugh at the putters?
Absolutely, laugh all you want.
Okay, thank you.
If anybody can do it, see me, thank you.
One more tip of the cap, please. I hope I don't miss anybody. I have others, but I don't see them here. Can Michael get up and may I give him his tip of the cap? He is our communications chair. And he has been upping the ante tremendously in terms of newsletters, communication. In the back of the room is a gentleman named Tom Burtney of On Video Productions. He's obviously video producing today. We're going to do 4 YouTube snippets for the YouTube channel that will add to our array of social media, and I thank you very much. It's time now for the real program to start. Rapid fire. Everybody knows I got about 10 to 12 minutes, and I'd like to proudly start with Tami. Where's Tami? Oh, there she is. Our new Chief Executive Officer of Communities and Schools, Las Vegas. Amazing that you're a part of our world. We thank you. And I've been visiting with them, and it's incredible the volunteer opportunities that exist. It's a smorgasbord of opportunity. So please come on up here. One second.
Hi, Tami.
Good morning.
It is our honor to be able to give you this check for $1,250.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're excited to be able to start working with you and doing some volunteering.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow, you guys, thank you so much. Hi. Communities and Schools is, and most of you heard from me about a year and a half ago when I first joined Rotary, in my personal commitment to be, actually I love our tagline, my personal commitment is to be more involved in community commerce and certainly camaraderie, and Rotary has helped me do that. Although, as Glenn mentioned, not quite as much as I originally wanted to, because after I joined the organization, we had some leadership changes, and at the end of March, I was named Chief Executive Officer of the State Office of Communities and Schools. So thank you guys very much. Irizu behind me here is part of our Southern Nevada team, and she's here to talk about some and help with some volunteer things. But first and foremost, I want to say thank you guys, because this $1,250 will help us move into more schools, not only here in Las Vegas, but across the state. This is what keeps me up at night, actually. Communities and Schools actually goes into Title I schools or at-risk, high-need schools where the majority of our students are hungry. They may be homeless, or maybe couch surfing, or maybe living in stacked housing, and they have a variety of barriers that are keeping them from coming to school and being successful. So that's what we do at Communities and Schools. And you guys are helping us do that. You guys are helping us solve these barriers and solve these problems. So thank you guys so much for doing that. What our model is, just to kind of give you an overview, if you don't remember, we have a lot of new members that have been here since I participated or presented, is we actually put a full-time site coordinator in every school that we serve, and that person becomes part of the fabric of the organization and from the school. So the school that you guys have helped us sponsor is Red Rock Elementary, and Red Rock Elementary isn't actually far from here. It's in the Sahara, kind of Decatur area. Red Rock Elementary is a Title I school. The majority of the children qualify for free and reduced lunch. Many times that also means free breakfast, because that may mean that for the majority of the students, that's the only 2 solid meals that they will get in the day. So Red Rock Elementary is the school that we have identified for you guys to maybe help partner with and all of that. This full-time site coordinator works with the school to work in our resource room. So we roll in with a full resource room, shoes, socks, emergent food, hygiene kits, backpacks, school supplies, might be laundry detergent, might be whatever those families are needing to help them be successful and get those kids to school. And we do that here in Southern Nevada. We are in 34 elementary schools, 7 middle schools, and 7 high schools. That's 48 Title I schools here in Las Vegas. Because of your donation and many other donations, we are actually moving into a minimum of 4 new schools this year. So 4 new schools will get the that get the touch of a site coordinator, which is 5 more full-time employees. And we're moving into 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school, the high school being Rancho High School. And so those key members go in and work with those kids, identifying the barriers on what's keeping them from coming to school. And then we take that and we elevate that. So think about that resource room is kind of like this space a little bit, right? We have somebody who greets us every day and makes us feel welcome. That's what our site coordinator does. They greet these kids every day, make them feel welcome, identify something if we think if your shoes are 2 sizes too small or 3 sizes too large or have holes in them. We'll have that conversation and we'll get you new shoes. But then that opens the door to a bigger conversation. And that bigger conversation is, why are you late 4 times to school every day? And it might be because, once we've had these conversations, that you are a 4th grader who's responsible for getting your 2 younger siblings up for school in the morning, finding breakfast in the house, getting dressed and walking 1.5 miles to school on your own, because your single parent household who's working 2 jobs doesn't get off until after school starts. That might be the barrier. And so that pair of shoes just opened up the door for us to then solve bigger problems. Make a call at home, see what's happening, how can we support you, how can we help you be successful, and for that particular child it might be an alarm clock, that might be the simplest form. Those are all things that you are helping us do in Rotary. In our site coordinators take 1 step further, and then they'll case manage those children. So about 10% of the school's population, so at Red Rock Elementary, we have about 600 kids at that school. So they'll case manage about 60 kids, the ones that are really the highest need and are really struggling, and figure out what are those barriers and how can we continue doing that. We'll offer some tutoring, maybe some mentoring, and then we work with hundreds of different programs across Las Vegas and the state. You guys do a lot with Project 150. We partner with Project 150 in every one of our high schools. So when you guys go and work at Prom Closet and all the great things you guys do there, that then helps CIS kids, because we get to send our kids to Prom Closet. So what we also try to do is not do a duplication of services. If somebody else is out there doing that service, we will partner with them to help us, because it takes a village, and we know when we can't do it by ourselves. So in Las Vegas, we're in 48 schools. In Reno, we're in 8 schools. And in Northern Nevada, in Elko, we're in 7 schools. So that's 63 schools across the state. We have a pretty strategic, really robust strategic plan that hopefully will put us in 28 more schools in the next 3 years. So as the new CEO, that's my job, is to make that happen. And let me tell you why. And this is what keeps me up at night as well. When you think 48 schools, you think, my gosh, that is a lot of schools, right? You guys are doing some great work, and we are. I don't want to take that away from us. We're doing amazing work. Our site coordinators are truly the heroes of the organization. But out of the 350 public schools in Southern Nevada and Las Vegas, over 260 of them are Title I. Well, that means that over 60% of those kids qualify for free and reduced lunch. Our schools average 88% of the schools are qualified for free or reduced lunch. So 88% of the kids get their meals from school and may not have an active dinner or weekend program. So that's when then we'll bring in 3 Square, or we'll bring in Serving Our Kids, we'll bring in all those other food opportunities to help us identify what those barriers are. So that's why I have a strategic plan that puts me in 28 more schools in the next 3 years, so then we can continue to help these kids and get them the support that they need to get them to graduate. Because we also know that these kids do not just wake up their junior year and decide not to graduate from high school. It's been a slow process of a barrier and a barrier and a barrier. By the time they get to high school, it's just too hard. They might be credit deficient, and now we need to get them across the finish line. And if we can have at least identified these barriers across their college or their school careers, we can get them across the finish line. In fact, we are obviously just counting our numbers, our graduation numbers and our statistics. We're extremely data-driven and we're evidence-based. So I can tell you how many pairs of shoes I've given out. I can tell you how how many, emergent food, how many backpacks. I can tell you all the different stats to share with you our metrics. But one of the things that I'm most proud of is we had 7 senior academy classes this year. Those are in our high schools, and those are our elevated areas. Out of 7 academy classes for our seniors, out of 4 of our classes, we had 100% graduation rate. 100%. And these are kids, thank you, please clap for them, because these are kids that walked into their senior year credit deficient by 3 or more credits. So in addition to passing all their classes in their senior year, they had to make up additional classes, and many of them obviously didn't even think that they were going to be able to do that. We also have 3 classes left. We have an average graduation rate, or we have a graduation rate now of 97%, but I've got some kids in summer school. So we're hoping that they can get through summer school, and then if they can do that by the end of the summer, that can add to our graduation rate as well. So that's the work that you guys are helping us do. We need to do more of it, and together we're really excited to continue to graduate our kids. So quick overview. Sometimes you're like, what does CIS do? Here's what we do. If a student's been walking to school and shoes 3 sizes too small for them, we give them new shoes. If they don't have food at home, we provide them food. If they need academic assistance or tutoring, we'll provide that. If they need help paying for their college admission tests, their ACTs, their SATs, any of those graduation robes, any of the things to get them across the finish line, we find them the money, and at the end of the day, we are maybe the caring adult in their life. And that is where, again, Rotary comes in. A lot of different opportunities for volunteering in not only Red Rock Elementary School, but in other opportunities as well. Here's some quick stats. I'll leave those here. And then last but not least, we do have a school supply drive on Friday, August 2nd. This is where we collect all of the supplies that fill not only the 48 schools we're in, but the 4 new schools that we're in, that we'll have to bring in all new resource rooms for those schools. The closest drop-off location here is the Sam's Club on Rainbow, and we're gonna be there from 5 in the morning until 7:30 at night. You all should have a flyer at your table, and if you are interested in participating or doing more, please let Irazu, who's right back with me from Southern Nevada, and myself know. And again, thank you very much, Rotary. Together, we're gonna continue to help these kids and get them across the finish line. So, thank you.
Getting pointed to over here. Okay. So, one of the things that we do at our meetings at each meeting is a 5-minute vocational talk about one of our members talks about what their vocation is, what they do, and how we can help them. So this week it is Kevin Janison, and I told him when I invited him to come, I said, you can talk about TV, you can talk about weather, or you can talk about Deputy Dorkface, and I think you said you want to talk about Deputy Dorkface, but Kevin, give us 5 minutes on a little bit about your background, what you're doing here, and then I think you're going to give a little more of a program too, so please help us welcome Kevin. Yeah. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Thanks for doing this. And Jill is here with you.
Hi, Jill.
Hello. Again, thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
And the Summerlin Rotary would like to give you a check for $500 for Deputy Dorkface. Thank you so much, and look forward to working with you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much. For those of you who might not be as familiar with Deputy Dorkface, I know we've put a couple of copies on the tables and everything. I'll just give you a brief, since I have 5 minutes, a brief run through.
You got a whole 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right. I'm used to a producer going, wrap it up. A brief overview on what Deputy Dorkface has become over the last couple of years. Back in 2006, when I was moving from Channel 8 to Channel 3, I had a 1-year non-compete, so I had a choice. I could hang around and float in the backyard swimming pool and just kind of pass the time, but I wanted to be a little more productive. And I had these bedtime stories I used to tell my kids. And over the years, I used to get invited to schools to read Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And I got to know that book by heart going through that. And I thought, I've got this year, let me try to see if I can make these bedtime stories try to get something, you know, rolling with them, see if they can grow antlers, and if I can get 1 or 2 published. And these are stories that I like to consider fiction turned nonfiction. I took antics that my kids did, or still do, they're 25 and 23, that I thought were funny, and then I wrote them out and had these crazy adventures happen. We have one story, how Stinkville got cleaned up, about a town where nobody takes a bath. We have another one, Sugaropolis, where the kids are too full for dinner, but they always have room for desserts. We have Kids versus Parents, who has the best manners. In Trutherton, the most recent book, I think it's back on that table, the kids are running for student council, and they're promising to make recess 45 minutes longer. They're promising no more homework. And that's in that story, the deputy bans honesty. Now nobody's telling the truth. So I wrote these books out, I submitted them to a publisher, and as you might expect, the publisher said, oh man, these need a lot of work. And I was so proud of them. I put all this time into conveying the thoughts that were scrambled in my cerebellum to paper, and I wrote them and I rewrote them, and I took them to Lummis, the elementary school right by my house, and I test drove them on kids, and they seemed to like them, and I would tweak them, massage them, go read them to another class, and you submit it to the publisher, and they're like, yeah, really? That's not worthy at all. And so we went through the writing process and the rewriting process and rewriting again, and eventually found an illustrator and got our first book published. And it worked pretty well. They asked for the second one, and now we're up to 4 books. And where the Rotary has come into it is that they have bought books, that's what this money will go to, that we place in the at-risk schools. By the way, I'm a big fan of CIS. They've done a great job, and I take pride in that the national Grand Poobah is a Nevada in Washington of the community and schools. But we are able to buy with Rotary money more books to put in the at-risk schools. Then the schools where we place the books, I'll go in and I'll go do a couple of presentations. Entire school, we'll do a K through 2 and a 3 through 5. And those presentations consist of a little warm-up. And by the way, nobody has been to more presentations than my good friend Triple G over there. Greg can fill in and actually, because he knows all my jokes, he can do this thing right on through, and I can sleep in. So it's always fun to have him out. And so I'll show up at a school, there's a little warm-up, I have a little wind-up bird that gets them all excited. Talk about how the name came about, Deputy Dorkface, which was really just a silly name I made up to make my kids laugh, and how the ideas got rolling, and then I share a story. There's audience participation in the story, and then after the story we talk about the importance of reading. And I have them come up with one job that doesn't require reading. Now in every school I visit, I get the same answers. Garbage man, McDonald's, football player. And I should mention I've now done this presentation in 13 states, but only in Las Vegas did I get a 4th grader raise his hand with a big old smile because they think they're going to stump me. One job that doesn't require reading. The kid's smiling back there, and I call on him and he goes, pole dancer. Gotta love Las Vegas. So I talk about the importance of reading and how there's nothing you can do without being a good reader. And let me tell you something, you talk to these teachers and the kids aren't reading. They might look at a phone that says BRB and all these little slogans that have come up with texting and everything. And then I do an interactive journey through the publishing process. So they see my original outline. They see how when I write it out, my writing gets hacked by the editors. They see how I hack the editor's writing, so they see the whole process. And the teachers, I've gotten so much positive feedback on that because the teachers nowadays say these kids just don't understand when we give them their paper back and there are some corrections that's the normal process. And when I'm putting the book together, it's like 35 to 40 times back and forth of us writing and rewriting. So they see that, and then they also see how the illustrations evolve from the original sketch to the illustrations, what changed, why it changed, and some of them will be very minute changes, and they have to guess what changed, and that becomes a very fun back and forth to pretty much conclude the presentation. Except for the intermediate students, the 3rd through 5th graders, we do one more exercise, because I want to show them how much fun they can have writing, since that seems to be a lost art, and I enjoy this. I don't look at it as writing, I look at it as creating. But one more exercise at the end, and that is we'll improv a book based on lies they've told their parents. And that is very entertaining because when the parent's not there, they're willing to confess everything. So that comes out to be 10 minutes, and everybody's involved. And at the schools where I found it to be the most successful is they'll go back to their classrooms and they'll start working on their own books right there. And then they're excited. They've got some passion about writing. But we've also sent a lot more kids to the library. I can tell because I can visit the school in a couple of months, and the books look loved. They look worn and loved, but that's a good thing that they're going to the library. So all this started with Rotary a few years ago when I called Dennis. I said, Dennis, hey, I have an idea for you, because there was a time several years ago where I was bestowed some very nice recognition from District Rotary for literacy efforts. And I thought this would be a good partnership to get more into the at-risk schools and get more books out and get kids excited about reading. So thanks to that lunch with Dennis and all the folks who have been with it from pretty much the beginning, we've probably visited now at-risk schools. I would say we're probably up to 35 schools that we've done this. And most of those were about 3-4 years ago. And now we're gonna start on lap 2. And that's how this works. So it's been very cool how this has sort of grown and developed, and the partnership is great. It's one thing to go to schools right around here in the Summerlin area, but to go to the Red Rock Elementary and all the other schools that definitely are at risk, and they don't always have the money for extra books and or getting assemblies. So that's essentially what we do. Did I fulfill my time there? Well, I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. We can certainly segue into broadcasting, but this is great because this will get us into a couple of schools. Well, hopefully you guys can pick the schools. Yes, sir?
How can we help you other than donation?
Well,
What do you need from us?
the more schools that we can get into, I think the more of an impact we make. So that's the thing. It's great to go and actually when we go to the schools, what I found, and this is something that you may not be aware of, is that most of these elementary schools aren't familiar with what Rotary is doing. How the heck can that happen? Unacceptable. So I thought it's always been great. Like Greg will bring a backpack, like you guys will have given away, of some of the things that you guys will give at various events, and it creates a little partnership with the school. Most of these principals have never heard of Rotary's impacts in the community. So what'll happen is Greg or a representative from Rotary will say just a few words to the kids, and then talking with the principal, they say, hey, we can do this, we can help you with that. These are the types of things we do. And I thought it was an excellent partnership, and then it gets Rotary more involved with some of these schools. And I think, boy, if you can start helping these kids when they're at that age, you could certainly change the lives of a lot of young people when they are, when the mold is being cast, when it's what's most needed. So the more schools that, that we get involved in, I think the more minds that we can help get motivated about reading and writing, and that would certainly help them. And then, of course, I like the fact that it opens the door for the Rotary connection as well. And so I don't know if you wanted to say anything about the impact, because you've been to almost all of these. And I appreciate some of the presentations that have been sponsored by North Las Vegas Rotary or downtown. Greg is still there. So that's good, because I feel like if I ever drop dead in the middle of the presentation, you can just pick it up and roll.
The opportunity to bring Rotary into a school is just cherished for me. Kevin gets to do it with his talent, and we just get to do it through volunteering and saying, hey, how can we help? And they don't know what we do. And so don't keep us a secret. You have a favorite school, let Kevin know, he'll go read at it, we'll present books there, we'll become part of that school, or at least for that hours of that day. But it's an opportunity to see Rotary at work, and the librarian lights up, the principal starts thinking about what they can do and how we can do it together. And we've got 50 folks strong here that we can affect 600 at a time. And that's about how many kids are in the elementary school. So
sometimes it's like 1,200 too.
That opportunity is just unlimited to be able to do it through your help and what we can do. So service above self.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think it's a lot of your help. And so we're there for 2 hours, and we will have a lot of fun. There will be a lot of laughs. There's a lot of energy. If you come and visit some of these presentations, it'll be loud. There's a lot of participation. I like to joke that I get these kids all fired up, and then I pass them right back to their teachers. Kind of guy that I am. They're not as crazy about it in the morning. Yes, sir.
I have a question. We are new to Las Vegas, Kasha, and I was new to Las Vegas since our second meeting, but what I just heard, it's very close to our hearts because Kasha was an educator in Poland. I've done a lot of things with young children on different levels, also almost to a college level with art. I'm an art promoter, Kasha is an artist, and when you start talking about books and writing, I wrote a children's book in Polish for Polish children around the world. I would love to get involved in presenting art into school systems because I think not just to create a new generation of people who really understand art, but also art opens up minds of young children. I've seen amazing transformations, how people think, how they respect different points of view, different ways how artists see the world, blue elephants and all this stuff. So the children also don't feel alone with creating their own visions of themselves. And on many different levels, it is just a beautiful way without reaching to children for themselves to find out the richness in themselves artistically. Because a lot of times people just don't, parents don't have time, I've had galleries before, kids walks into the gallery, the parents say, don't touch anything, don't move, freeze, kids get all intimidated by it.
Well, a lot of these kids in these at-risk schools have never been in a gallery. So you'd be...
That's what it is, and I think that is on a larger scale, I think that is something that American curriculum is missing on different levels, even very rich.
Well, you'd be a big hit. I can tell you right now, when I go and I begin the presentation, is how many of you like to read? And you get, I think they feel like they have to raise their hands. How many of you like to write? Maybe half the hands. But how many of you like to draw or illustrate? And so, and they love watching how the illustrations evolve. And we have a very talented illustrator. And I don't know if not every table has a book, but if you look, this guy is extremely talented. Unfortunately, he's retired. So as we move on, I have to have a new character. But the best part about Eldon Doty, who's the illustrator, for those of you who don't know the story, when I was sitting in the publisher's office, we were looking at, I must have been 150 portfolios. And after a while, you look at them and they all blend together and say, oh my gosh. But his work popped for a couple of reasons. Large, funny, bright, creative, and I want Eldon. And so the publisher calls his agent in New York City, and they turned us down. I said, oh man, heartbroken. So tried again, called them again, turned us down. And they said, okay, well, we just have to move on. So they found somebody in Colorado who was very talented, very good, but I didn't think he was as good as Eldon. So I said, hold on. Before you sign Mr. Colorado to a contract, give me one chance to make a run at Eldon without talking to his agent. I mean, what's going to happen? He tells me no. I mean, sometimes that works in my business. So I look him up, do a little research on Eldon to see if I can call him and talk to him and see if I can persuade him. And it turns out that Mr. Very big-time, talented illustrator with the New York City agent lived in Sun City, Anthem. So I was able to stalk him. I was able to go to his house and all that. So it worked out as a great partnership. He's very talented. So now I know. Here's Glenn with the hook. So thank you all very much for your participation. And I hope when we do these that we can get some Rotarians out to the schools because, as Greg mentioned, I think there's a great partnership to be had. Thank you.
Thank you so much. By the way, I have not forgotten the Pledge of Allegiance. I just thought that because it's 2 days from Independence Day, that we would end our meeting pledging allegiance as a connector to our Patriots Parade. Instead of words of inspiration, which Lee would offer up, I thought Lee should stand up because he is the inspiration. He's been my inspiration for a couple of months now. Turns out that I could sort of participate in acknowledging Lee. So would you come up, please? Everybody know about Paul Harris? Okay. I only have one of these. Only one in 20 years. Shame on me. We're about to give Lee his 9th Paul Harris. I brought this just because some of you who are new may not see it, and this is small, but this is what Paul Harris looks like. Spending time with Lee over the last couple of months, I understand why he exemplifies Paul Harris. But I just want to be able to thank him so much for being a part of our club. He's got an incredibly distinguished Rotary career. He's been a governor. I asked Lee to become our administrator, which is sort of an all-encompassing title, which means he's right by our side to help in all kinds of ways, including being host. And so I would just like to thank you very, very much.
You're welcome, sir.
At the end.
At the end.
Okay.
Good.
In about 5 to 10 minutes, he's going to change his entire demeanor, and he's going to lead us in happy bucks, too. Okay.
You better get ready.
Okay. We're getting ready now for FAYM. And I'm going to ask Hal to come up. And Greg, as president of, or chair of the foundation, has something for you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Hal.
Thank you.
Our club has a charitable foundation, and Hal has helped us with our fundraiser over the years. He has judged music contests for us. He has come to our Interact meetings and has spoken to the kids about FAYM. He's going to take a moment or two and explain to us what it is and how his program works, how it affects the at-risk kids in our valley via violin. To me, it's a fiddle, but that's a swear word to Hal. So out of respect for Hal, it's a violin. But this is our contribution to you and to your FAYM, and thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
$1,000. A couple minutes, tell us about it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, the relationship between FAYM and this club has gone on for a long time. My good friend Dennis Ortwine has been a board member on FAYM for 10 years and is now an emeritus board member. We started FAYM 12 years ago, and interestingly enough, I made contact through YouTube with a violinist in Poland, and his name was Krzysztof Rosinski. And I just said, nice job, after he had played this wonderful violin solo. And he wrote back in perfect English. Turns out his mother is an English teacher. And he said, oh, coming from somebody like you, that's a great compliment. And we started talking. I said, have you ever thought of studying in the United States? He said, oh no, that would be impossible. My parents are very poor. So it was the word impossible that started FAYM. We brought Krzysztof Rosinski from Poznan, Poland, to the United States, to the craziest town in the United States, right here in Las Vegas, to do a recital. And in the meantime, he made application to the Eastman School of Music and was awarded the Howard Hanson Scholarship, $50,000 a year, to go to the Eastman School. Off he went, and FAYM covered the rest of his tuition. And he graduated, went on to Carnegie Mellon, and we helped him with that. He's now touring the world with the, oh gosh, I'm losing the name of the conductor. Anyhow, it's a famous touring orchestra that he's concertmaster of now. He is just one of 45 scholarship students that have been awarded help from FAYM. But our most important program is our Violins for Kids program. We started this 10 years ago with just 11 kids from one school, and now we have about 200 kids from 51 schools playing in 2 community centers after school. And thanks to Michael, we have this little video for you. web help.
Well, let's see, this is going well, looks like we have some technical problems,
Technical problems, okay.
so we're not gonna be able to do it. I thought we could, but we're not.
Oh, nuts, okay. Well, we have grown from the east and west sides of Las Vegas, and our further expansion, and with the help of the Rotary Club, we'd like to do more north and south locations as well, and increase our membership from 200 kids to about 400. And I'm anxious to speak with the partnership program with the school system so that we can identify those places that have at-risk students. And that's what our program is for. We offer violins and cellos and basses and all kinds of string instruments at this point. But if you are somebody who has an instrument in your closet, in your basement somewhere, we could certainly use it. And we have a luthier who can bring a decrepit instrument back to real playable shape. So if anybody has instruments, we can certainly use them. That's about all. Questions for me?
Do you
Yes,
play?
Do I play? I used to play, yes. But now I'm, I was a trumpet player and then a viola player, piano player, and then I played stick. I conducted and formed the Las Vegas Philharmonic back in 2000, whatever it was, 2008. Anyhow, yes, you had a question.
Hal, why don't you tell them a little bit about your Christmas program and the way that the parents get involved and invite everyone?
Right. Our program is not a drop-off program. The parents come to each lesson in the initial year. And our Christmas program is really something because we have a volunteer service club that does presents for all 200 kids. They buy books, and each kid gets something like 6 or 7 books as a Christmas present. Is that what you had?
Well, I was thinking more of the parental support and all the enthusiasm.
Right. Well, the parents play a very, very active role. They set up for all of our concerts. They provide refreshments, banquet actually after each of our programs. And I'll certainly let the club know as soon as we have dates for our recitals for this coming year. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Any opportunity for actual volunteers to help out?
Volunteers we can certainly use in a number of capacities. Board is one. We could use a financial expert, somebody who is adroit with QuickBooks and other board situations. We can use volunteers for our recitals to help set up, to help tear down, those kinds of chores. We'd love to have you just come and see the kids in action. That would be the best. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's a great segue, if I could acknowledge, because all of you plan to be here in 2 weeks for Ferry. Everybody familiar with Ferry coming? Ferry Xanthely, a survivor of the Bataclan nightclub. Dean managed to get him to come. But when you arrive, Andrea Torres, Guadalupe Terrones, and Marco Aurelis will be playing their violins in a concerto. They are 3 of the kids that benefit from FAYM. We figure that when you give a check, I think our club should see the results of our generosity. So please come. It's going to be a really cool breakfast. Now I'm going to ask our administrator to change his hat because I love Happy Bucks. That's one of the fun parts of being a Rotarian. So today we're going to catch our Happy Bucks in acknowledgement of Rotary Night at the ballpark a week from Friday, July 12th. We have already sold 145 tickets. Each ticket represents $7. that will go into our charitable fund for us to determine what we can do with that money. So I hope people are ready to be a little happy for the next few minutes before we bring Sam up to give us a very, very cool lesson about the four-way test.
Play ball! Who's happy today?
I got a happy one because I'm happy that this is Glenn's first meeting and I'm excited about this Rotary year.
Only 25.
Who's counting? Happy to still be here.
Still happy to be here. Great. We're happy to have you.
Richard's birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks, and his son is coming from South Dakota, and his family is out from New York City, and we're going to celebrate at Sinatra and Mcmillan for Janison.
I'm happy there's a lemon tea brought a great start, and I'm happy to see the people who benefit from some of our contributions.
We are very happy to have so many creative ideas this early in the morning. That doesn't happen. Thank you.
Happy to be here. Thanks everybody for all their concerns and their time for us.
I'm happy to be here to just be able to take this whole community in and also to welcome you to our volunteer opportunities that we have within our organization. So I look forward to seeing you all in our upcoming volunteer events. So thank you.
I'm happy because I'm here with you.
Nice job on the speakers.
And I'm just so darn happy. That's what you hear.
A year's worth of happiness. David.
Just excited for Glenn's year, very, very excited, and also thanks to everybody, and it's so cool to see all the great things we do in our club here. Thank you.
Lee, I don't like being upstage. Happy for Glenn Ritt's year and for our great community partners and a room full of people.
It's very similar. It's nice to see all the new faces here from far away and from our partners. So thank you.
Happy to Linda as my president-elect and my entire board of directors and committee chairs. Already in the last month, they are just working almost seemingly around the clock to get set for the year. And I can't wait to work with all of them. And I'm very happy.
Very happy to be here and watch Glenn start out his new Rotary year and, of course, all the programs today. Very nice.
Have you back to me? I can back this way.
Come get the corner.
One for me, and Joe Germania isn't here, 25 cents. I'll text him, let him know they contributed.
Again, happy buck for Glenn and for the new Rotary year. I'm happy for the partnership with Rotary. The lowly author doesn't get any money, that goes straight for the purchase of the book, so again, I appreciate that. But I'm also unhappy as a member of this club that I never get to make it because you have these meetings during my second rapid eye movement. So I'll put it on and take care of the next couple meetings.
But we do have 12 socials a year, copies of tape.
Here's a bucket. I look forward to joining 140 others at the baseball game. It'll be fun.
Happy for the inspirational speakers this morning.
I'm just very happy to be here and happy that Joe and Glenn brought us into Rotary.
Anyone else? Yes. Bob's not full yet.
Happy to celebrate Glenn his first day with the presidency, not his first working day, and happy to be part of this great program.
And we look forward to having a partnership with the Department of Fine Arts during the year.
Thanks for all of our guests being here, especially a shout out for Elaine from our Johnson Middle School. She is our school district representative for the classroom there for our Johnson Middle School Interact. So make sure that you say hello to Elaine.
Well done, Glenn, and to all the amazing speakers we have today.
Kate has given me so much confidence, seriously, by the fact that she truly has brought a whole social calendar together before the official start of the new year, and that is really significant.
Yesterday, there's $15. Yesterday, my wife and I celebrated our 13th wedding anniversary. And on that day, we bought ourselves the most expensive gift we've ever given one another. We went up to Mount Kolob in Virgin, Utah, and bought a cabin up in the mountains. So,
Wow. And we're all invited.
Absolutely. Bring your own bed.
You don't even know the plans that I have for next
All right.
Thank you so
Who's
much.
collecting money?
Oh, I'm taking it all. I'm taking it all. That's the privilege of being president. I get all the money and cash. Joan will make sure I don't lose it. Somebody slipped in, I noticed. Where is she now? Where's Gail? Come on up. There she is, over there. You get a tip of the cap for being a board director this year. Please come up and get your hat. And wear it at work, so you're branding us as the Summerlin Rotary Community, Commerce, and Camaraderie. Thank you so much for volunteering. Okay. You may notice this. That's there so we can take it wherever we go. It also incorporates the four-way test with our brand. I've had the privilege of working with Greg and Sam at Mcmillan School. 20-something years as a Rotarian, watching Sam in action, bringing the four-way test alive through his lesson, made me more sensitive and aware of what it's about than anything that I've encountered. And I asked Sam to get started with a class on the four-way test. Thank you, Sam.
Good morning, everybody. Take the money and give that over there to you. Thank you. Everybody should have these on your tables. Could you grab one for me? We're going to go through a little bit here. Great job to all the speakers. Community and schools, phenomenal activity going on in the schools across the valley. We talk about Johnson. We talk about the high school program that we do at Hal Weller. At Mcmillan Elementary School, we sit down with fifth graders, and every time we go there, it is a practice of, are you smarter than a fifth grader? The Kitterack program and the four-way test. We've got about 28 students usually that fill in, and they fill in the utility or the multi-purpose room, which is a stage, a cafeteria, and just they hold all kinds of things in there. And we meet, and there's 4 rows deep of students, fifth graders, and there's a ton of energy in the room. The energy is generally not where you want it to be, so we got to rein it in a little bit, and we do that with this phenomenal book. Does everybody have one? I've got a few left. If you don't have one. So, what I'd like to do this morning, Glenn, thank you for, congratulations on the start of your new year, and what a great way to start looking at the four-way test and what it means on a larger scale. So in this book, there is a lesson on each of the 4 ways of a four-way test. And we do one meeting a month, first or second Friday of each month, towards the end of the school day. Friday, end of school day, fifth graders, lots of energy. It's a tough crowd. So, but we bring them together, and we focus each month on one of the lessons. This morning we'll focus on probably my favorite one, which is the second one. If you'll open up to the page that says, is it fair to all concerned? And again, we go through this, is it the truth, is it fair to all concerned, and we talk about it with the students. But what I'd like to do this morning, if you'll humor me, I'd like to run this chapter as I would in the multi-purpose room with the fifth graders. Is that okay? Okay, good on that? So in that, is it fair to all concerned? I'm going to ask somebody, if I raise a hand, to volunteer to read the first page. Anybody? Just like the fifth graders, nobody raises their hand. I love it. So, Dave, if you would, sir.
Sure. I gotta put my fifth grade glasses on.
Yes, sir.
Is it fair to all concerned? Little Kim was the best softball player on her team. She could hit and she could throw. The game for the championship was next Saturday. The team needed Kim's pitching.
Okay, so before we move on, we always talk about what we've just read to make sure that there's some comprehension. And I'm not an educator, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trained as a teacher. I am a dad, so I got a little experience there with the kids. But the important thing is, and somebody said it a little bit ago, interacting, and some folks, some of the kids don't have that parent at home that's talking to them and just kind of having a conversation about this kind of stuff. So we talked about this. The most important person to the team. Does any of the fifth graders do you know about? Do you know somebody like that? And they send out a name. They all know somebody who's the most popular or the most athletic or those kind of things. And we talk about that for a few minutes, and then we move on to the next page. So if I could, show of hands to read the next page. Kevin, go ahead, sir, if you don't mind.
A few days before the game, Kim's Uncle Hunter said, "Kim, let's go to Disney World together Saturday." Wow, thought Kim. I've never been to Disney World. Then Kim remembered the game. Deep down, she knew the team needed her. But without thinking, she said, "Great, Uncle Hunter, let's go to Disney World." Then Kim pushed aside her thoughts of the team and dreamed about Disney World.
Disney World, baseball. Put yourself in the mindset of a fifth grader at this point. What are you thinking? That's a tough dilemma. Who remembers ethics class, right? This is where we're at right here with a fifth grader. Disney World, playing baseball, and this is where I start asking the kids for feedback, and they have amazing answers that run the spectrum of exactly what you would want and exactly what you would expect from a fifth grader that wants to go to Disney World. And it's a lot of fun to hear them, and we play this off, and when we hear that comment of, I'd go to Disney World because, the team, there'll be another baseball game, it's Disney World, the family's invited me to go to Disney World, I gotta be with the family. Well, that's great, but is it fair to all concerned? So let's read the next page if we could, volunteer. Tami, thank you.
The next day at school, Kim met Anna and Emily, two of her teammates, in the cafeteria. Kim felt guilty, but said, "I can't play in the big game Saturday. My family is going out of town." Anna and Emily were very sad. Cindy said, "We don't stand a chance without you, Kim." As Kim left the cafeteria, she saw the four-way test on the wall. She had seen it many times before, but this time was different. One question stuck in her mind. Is it fair to all concerned?
So again, before we go to the next chapter, the next page, we ask, really, this is where the kids start to see, wow, there might be something more to this decision between just baseball and going to Disney World. There's other people involved. There's other people that we have to consider in our lives, in our daily lives, with all of these different decisions that we do. We have a snack table up in front of the room when the kids, in the middle of our lesson, we offer them snacks. And we start talking about, did you take that extra bag of chips that the last person may not have gotten? Is that also fair to all concerned? So we kind of wrap this lesson into not just what's going on with Kim in the story, but with them directly and how it can affect them in their daily lives. So in the next page, if we could, go ahead, sir. Thank you, Robert.
Okay. At home, Kim thought about her decision not to play ball. Was it fair to all concerned? Kim did not know what concern meant, but she knew that fair to all meant being fair to her teammates and to her school.
Yes. And again, we're the fifth graders, not knowing what concern meant, and we kind of cultivate that. We talk about it. We talk about this as, what does concern mean? And we'll ask questions. We'll get feedback, and again, the answers vary, and it's a ton of fun listening to the fifth grader perspective on what all four of these tests mean. And to wrap up the story, one more person, please. Please, thank you.
Saturday morning, Kim got up happy and excited. She dressed quickly and turned to look in the mirror. Straightening her cap, she knew she had made the right decision. She knew there would be other chances to visit Disney World, but there might not be other championship ball games. Kim wanted to be fair to all concerned. When she got to the field, she felt like a winner. She knew this would be the best game of her life. The end.
And then we talked about the best game of her life. We haven't talked about whether she's won or lost yet. Because the best game of her life comes from the decision of considering other people around you and making the decision that is best for all, or fair to all concerned. And making the decision not based on what your personal desires might be, but what's, again, best for everybody. So that's kind of the lesson that we use. Again, there's a ton of interaction as we go along. And almost every hand in the room is up when we start going into the story and asking questions about, what would you do in this situation? Has anybody ever been in this situation before? Can you give me an example of one of these situations? And the stories are amazing, and we turn those into, making the right decisions. And then at the end, I always ask, can somebody give me an example of making a decision they've made that has been fair to all concerned, or has been the truth, or beneficial to all, those kind of things. Again, every time there's one or two or three kids that will gladly tell you their story. And it's just a ton of fun. And again, it's making that connection and getting folks ready to graduate from 5th grade Kitteract into the elementary program and staying with Rotary and just being good citizens. And that's what it's all about. So thank you for the time. If anybody has any questions, sir?
When you go to Is It the Truth, take Deputy Dorkface with you.
Absolutely.
Honesty back.
Yeah. I have a newfound use for that book.
Do we have an assignment for our class?
So I believe Glenn would like each of you to take one of these books home. There are some activities in there that you might find fun. There's a word search, there's coloring, there's all of these things. So what do we say, the meeting in August? First meeting in August. So the first meeting of the year with kids, we give them this book, and we give them a notebook as well to take notes in. When the assignment is always bring this book back with you to the meetings, and they do. So they always bring it back, and they've colored in it, they've done the activities, they've generally read the stories beforehand. So we're going to ask you to do the same thing and read the other 3 stories. It's super quick read. I read them last night again just so I could be prepared. And it took me 10 minutes. So take a look at it, bring it back with you in August, and I think we'll have another discussion, a little conversation about it. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
There are definitely opportunities for all of you if you wish to participate. And I will tell you, you'll get a lot more out of it than you'll give. You walk out of there just absolutely inspired. And as a school, you saw again and you met Principal Irby the last meeting, I believe. She's one of the more inspiring and intelligent people I've ever met. We'll be putting up on the website, Michael will put up a Q&A we did with her so that you'll get a little more insight about her, this class, the schools. One of the things that blew me away was the percentage of kids who don't come to school every day. Not because they're truant, but because of the circumstances in their lives. Many of them are taking care of their families in 5th grade. We're running pretty much on schedule. Joan's telling me to move real fast. So I'm going to ask our administrator again to lead us in a moment of inspiration. And then I will ask Robert Bridell to lead us in the pledge. Is there anything we missed?
Yes.
There is. I see he's my consigliere. What did we miss?
Talk about the ball game coming up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
30 seconds or less.
30 seconds. 145 tickets have been sold. 31 of them are coming from the Green Valley Rotary. I'm trying to find, I have 8 tickets still to sell. I have to close it up. So if anybody still wants tickets, see me after the game. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you all. Get there early, because if you get there early, first 2,500 people get this cool neck, what do you call it, neck brace? which means you'll have to make an airline, you have to make an airline reservation after that to go somewhere, okay?
Oh, and
Definitely see him before the game, not after.
the game starts at 7. We were there last night. By 7:15, the seats are completely in the shade, so.
A couple days from now, Dave will be celebrating all our participation in the parade, either sitting on the sidelines, but hopefully walking in it, celebrating the 4th of July. Who can tell me in just a couple words what happened on the 4th of July? Dean?
A group of Whiteville landowners didn't want to pay their taxes. That was the third.
That was before. Anybody? What actually happened on the 4th of July? Why are we celebrating? What?
Is the Declaration of Independence was ratified.
I think the first Continental Congress.
Okay, well, good. We got some information. Actually, I want to start off just with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. He was an incredible person, far-reaching in his thinking, and this is what he said back at that time. Let the annual return of this day, July 4th, forever refresh our recollection of these rights included in the Declaration of Independence, and an undiminished devotion to them. The 4th of July was not the day in which the Declaration of Independence was signed. That happened August 2nd. But that was the day that the Continental Congress accepted these, and then the signatures came later. When the news of the Declaration of Independence went to New York City, a riot broke out in happiness, and the statue of King George III was torn down, and out of it, in its melting, 42,000 musket balls were made for the war effort. 8 of the 56 signatories were actually born in Britain. The rest here in this country. Who was the oldest signer of the Declaration of Independence?
Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin. How old was he?
87.
Ooh, he would not like you. he was 70. And the youngest was, figured no one knew that. It was Edward Rutledge from South Carolina. He was 26 years old. I have a son-in-law whose last name is McKean. And my son-in-law's, I don't know how many greats, grandfather was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. So we celebrated especially in our family. As someone pointed out, saying this is what we ought to do is the easy part. Then comes whatever sacrifice it takes to fulfill what we've determined to do in any aspect of our life, but certainly as a reminder that this nation can only be a great nation, not because we wear a ball cap or say it, but because we do it. We remember the sacrifices made and step forth with our own lives, our own talents, our own resources to do the same. So as we pledge this morning, let's pledge with a real determination to be good citizens.
Okay, please face the flag, place your right hand over your heart, and join me in saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ring the bell.
Congratulations, one under your belt. I know you've done it before.
Very nice to
A million
meet you.
times.